if she does. We don't actually know what we're up against. That's my concern. I agree with you, Isaac. I think that this is something we need to be doing consistently, and we need to be prepared, and Lena needs to be prepared. This seems like a lot of work. I mean, we're coming up against very powerful people, and we will have to do that eventually. I understand, but I'm just voicing my concerns and Tessian's concerns about Lena's well-being, and I'll just leave it at that. I understand, Lena, that you wouldn't want to sit this one out, and I do think you need to, not that you haven't been stepping up, but be present while we take these things on. But this is potentially very dangerous. But I'm in.
Karash, what do you think?
At some point in the conversation, Karash lost track of what was going on, pulled out the succubus skull, and started carving letters into it.
Seems right.
Why not? I'm gonna take a deep breath and sigh heavily and just kind of look around and go, I believe Cord brought me to you and you to me, and I have found more of my clan with you than I have found in years alone. I will be here to help in any way I can. I think we are here for a reason, even now, even if we do not know what that reason is. And I believe we should at least try to find the child. But if we cannot, we cannot. And if we can, then we can. And then we can continue to try and help Lena.
Seems reasonable to me.
Shad, I imagine that you will only echo what Karash has said, and frankly, I don't care what you think. You're not yet part of the group.
Interesting.
There you go.
I believe what Karash has said was rather good, actually. Profound in his own way.
Shocking.
And he cast Detect Magic. And interestingly, although you guys don't really have a way of knowing this, but we've been doing it aloud for narrative's sake, it's still, the thread of fate still points to Karash, but there's a second thread pointing eastward. Faint.
We don't see that, though, do we?
No.
This is just for him.
This is more for narrative flavor, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And he looks a little bit, like, for just a second, you see a hesitation in him that you haven't quite seen to this point because he's been relatively straightforward. But at this particular moment, you do kind of see his brow furrow ever so slightly. But he doesn't say anything.
Doesn't say, well, I suppose I should also mention that we did tell the Duchess we were going to be investigating ways to travel in this journey of ours. I have no problem lying to her. Nice woman, but doesn't need to know everything we're up to. However, transportation may actually be something we could use on this Conatus going forward. So I guess I would simply offer it up as an option, as a course of action, if you will, on top of finding this girl. There's a number of guilds in the city here. It's possible we may be able to find one willing to fund our little venture, if you will, and maybe help us out. I'm sure there would be groups interested in the Conatus and its historical implications, at the very least. But I would understand if you were a little hesitant about that. But I will say we are not exactly rolling in gold coins here, and we've got a long way to go, and we won't necessarily be able to pick up odd jobs along the way. So
it's a good point. I think we look into that as well. I think if all we do or say in this city is, where's this girl, it's not going to be very effective for a number of reasons. But Lena, you've heard everything we've had to say. You may not be ready for a decision, and yet it is now your decision to make. What do you want to do?
Sorry. Give it some thought. I say, well, I was the one who told the Duchess that we would be looking for transportation, and I do stand by that to a degree, that is something we should pursue, but I think again, perhaps we should look at some of these guilds, see if we can't find any information. Out of character engineer person. We were supposed to find a person.
Aurora.
Yeah.
Aurora, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to bring that up. I think I knew about that. Perhaps we should investigate finding Aurora as well.
Who's Aurora?
She's an engineer. I think isn't she supposed to be near the docks?
The engineer working on this project by the docks that was somebody that Dunask got at least somewhat close to in his dealings while he was still within the city before he went out on his own.
And the thinking was she might know or seen something?
At least.
His thought was
Yeah.
essentially that she might be the one person that he would consider trustworthy because he's not sure how many people were bought and paid for by your father.
Okay.
And my recollection is that she might also have something that she's being leveraged against her to make her do work that she otherwise would not be participating in.
Mm-hmm,
All right. Okay, cool.
So I'll bring that up as an option too. Maybe we can sort of multitask or something.
I think that's good, and what I'm looking for more, and Tessie, I think this is why you brought us here at this point, and if I'm wrong, please let me know, but a little bit bigger decision. The next steps is great, but kind of philosophically, how do we operate here? Are we going to find this girl or not, and then single-mindedly tackle Conatus to Conatus? That includes no longer looking for Karash's people or Holden. We are single-minded in our goals of completing the Conatus.
No, I don't think we should be single-minded. That'd be incredibly selfish of me. But I just want us to... It's not so much my concerns about how we do the Conatus, in terms of how we approach it, but I am more concerned about the potential groups and enemies we can encounter. And I think that is something we need to perhaps finalize a decision on how we approach those situations. Isaac, for my part, I will do my best to try diplomacy every time. Attacking someone blatantly and violently is not the answer. But if we are attacked, I just want you to know that I'm not going to hold back if it means protecting everyone here. I don't know if that's the answer you want, but
it's not.
That's all I have.
I wish
for
you
now.
could have more restraint, and I think that it would do you and your symbol and your group well. But this is the answer I was expecting, and that's fine. As far as your other answer, I think that's good, and I will continue supporting you for the time being because of that answer. I was willing to step away, but I think that works for now.
I kind of put my head down and look a little offended. But like just a little bit, like a little upset that, about the whole killing thing. But alas, that's all I got.
And I notice... go ahead, Tessian.
Tessian is just like, well, you know what? Look, we need to do a number of things then, I suppose. I guess my question to you, Isaac, is do you feel like you've learned what you need to know before we make a decision about what we do today, or has this not been enough?
I don't think you've been entirely upfront, to be honest, Tessian. I know you haven't, but if that is all you're willing to divulge right now, I think it's fine. I think we have a way forward. I think we know how we're going to interact together.
Is there something you wish to know?
I don't know.
And then he opens his arms a little bit. He's like, I'm sorry, but is there anything any of you wish to know about me? We're in this together at this point, all of us. And that is what my little liaison last night helped me realize this is like a business, so to speak, where we're all investing something, our time, our energy, setting aside our own goals to see this done. If we're all going to be investing in this, then we need to know the end point, but we also need to know who it is we're going into business with, who each other is, what we stand for, what we are. If you don't feel you can trust me, if you don't feel you know why I'm here, then ask your questions. I feel I have a pretty good idea of what you are all here for.
I'm gonna get up, and I'm going to walk around the table, and I'm going to say, while I'm walking, you see, you told us earlier that there are things that you haven't told us yet. You just stated that. Now, maybe you don't think it's necessary for the group or it's unrelated. But what I want to ask you right now is, I'm going to look you in the eye, and I'm going to say, is there anything you are intentionally keeping from the group right now that we would probably want to know? Use your discretion.
And Tessin actually kind of like looks confused. He's like, well, I suppose there is, but I
knew it was going to happen.
Yep.
The nerds went everywhere. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Tessin, sorry.
No, it could have been the nerds. We didn't hear this.
No, my phone fell off.
Too engrossed.
Tessin's like, I'm sure there's a lot about me you'd all like to know. I guess I just don't know why it's relevant in any way. Am I alone in this? And he kind of looks around the room. He's like, do you really need to know every single thing about me for this to work? Is that necessary? What exactly where should I start? He's a little confused. Like, he's not entirely sure what the hell you want.
I think you're playing coy. I think you do know what I want, and I think you are trying to make it seem just crazy that I want to know every single thing about you. But if you don't want to say it now...
Say what? I don't know. He's like, look, I'm serious.
I think there's a reason you're here more than the benefit of the greater Aramea and even the benefit of Black Harbor. I think there's some political thing going on that you're maybe not being totally upfront with us on.
He's like, I mean, I'd like to see this done as quickly as possible. Like I've said, I've got things to get back to, but I don't have some sort of ulterior motive outside the ones that I provided.
Chris, insight check. That was the whole looking him in the eye thing.
Go ahead.
9. I'm too heated. I'm too heated.
He looks legitimately confused. Like, you can even see in his eyes this look of, like, he doesn't really understand what you're asking him, but it doesn't seem like he's holding back. It's kind of enough to actually make you question the whole point to begin with.
It's not. But, okay. I'm going to... I'm going to pat him on the chest, and I'm going to say, all right then, where do we go from here? We want to find transportation, and we need to find Aurora.
Well,
I mean, Tessian looks to Lena.
I've been thinking again. Sorry. Or she's been thinking.
Hello.
Hi, I'm here. So, I say, well, perhaps we should head for the docks, and if we see anything else interesting, perhaps investigate it. But
Tessian, do you think you talked about transportation? You talked about guilds. Are you more interested in taking the search in that direction? Perhaps we can split up and cover more ground. We are on somewhat of a time limit here.
Gosh, he actually kind of eyes Lena for a second at the idea of splitting up to see, like, if he can read her face, sort of like does he, do you think splitting up's a good idea? But he's like, I have nothing against looking on my own for these guilds, although I'm not exactly the one that should be going. Honestly, Lena should probably accompany me if we are trying to get the help of some of them. It's her venture, after all.
Yes, I think that would be wise as well.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, I think if Isaac and I and maybe Karash go check out the docks, talk to Aurora, it might be for the best. At least initially.
Karash, what do you think? You ready to go find this girl?
Yes, is there no, like, mage that we could ask to cast a spell to find the girl?
I'm like 95% positive that I did ask this at one point, but it could have been off camera. And I think the answer was no.
It's a huge city. It'd be hard to, like, locate something like that.
I mean, I guess if you ask out loud, I don't know how much Tessian knows. I can make an Arcana check or something.
Yeah, if Chris hasn't said it already, I thought we already went over this. If not, I can do a
Don't think it happened on camera.
history check. Or I guess what check do you want for?
It's Arcana.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I don't know how much Tessian.
And Chelsea, you
17.
can make one too, yeah.
18.
The two of you kind of combined at least have a vague understanding that typically locational magic is much benefited by having a personal attachment, familiarity with the target, something that belongs to them that you can then use to hone in on. So the chances of even though there are probably very powerful mages within the city, the chances of them having the ability to locate a girl within it, unless they happen to know her, which again in a city this size is unlikely, is not very high.
We should have gotten something belonging to her. Damn.
We have a photo, which...
We have the photo, which is his.
Does the photo help?
It could. We'd have to...
It's arguable.
We'd have to
I mean,
ask,
the
yeah.
answer is it helps. I mean, from an out-of-game standpoint, it certainly helps, but it's not a lot.
I still think Aurora is our best bet, at least as a starting point.
Yeah, I agree.
Then let us speak with Aurora. Aurora.
So I believe she was over by the docks, Karash, which I think you have some familiarity with.
I have been to the docks many times.
Well,
All right.
Shad, are you coming along?
You know, I believe I have business elsewhere in the city I need to attend to.
I kind of like pause and I'm like,
Oh,
Really?
you do?
Oh, we're going to be judging me now for my actions. I'm very excited about this one. Have
No,
I not been straightforward with my motivations for you, Isaac?
By no means, Shad. Don't let us keep you from your important fate.
Very well then. He stands up and he starts to leave the room.
And Tessian is just like, I wish you the best of luck, Shard. May we bump into each other again.
and I kind of like take a step forward and I just like kind of wave like disappointed, like bye.
And he stops by the door. He doesn't turn around, but he says, "It was certainly an interesting time. Who knows, perhaps fate will make our paths cross again someday.
See you then.
I look forward to it."
Oh.
Out the door he goes.
Is no one else unsettled by him?
Oh, totally.
If you didn't think he was an insane person, maybe.
I don't
seems
think
like-
he is a person.
How astute.
Tessian's like, we may have to kill him someday, but for the time being, I like him.
I like him too.
Well, that makes a few of us. All right. Should we carry on then?
If you break the shard, kill the shard, would it just be more shard? I don't.
I wouldn't
It's-
worry yourself with it,
It's
Karash.
it's unclear, Crash. I don't know if I want to know.
When you see
But yes.
crazy scribbles on the side of a wall near the bathroom, you don't stress out about what it's saying. I think this is similar.
People write on bathroom walls.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Tessian's
Kinda
like,
like-
you can meet a lot of people that way, I wouldn't suggest it, though.
I'm like surprised that people do this. I'm like, but that's vandalism.
It kind of reminds me of the you writing chord in random walls and shit.
To
I
be
have to
fair,
practice.
Karash was going to give me the calligraphy set before he left of Draconic to carry on teaching Karash how to read and write. So somewhere in there we can pretend. In the animosity that he was like, by the way, Here you go. So, and I'm only reminded of that because I would say, don't worry, Karash, we'll teach you how to read and write, and you can see all the colorful language on those bathroom stalls. You'll love it.
So I take it the plan is for us to split up then. Lena and I look for transportation, and the rest of you look for this Aurora?
Yes, transportation and guilds, yes? Or
Yes.
One and the same. Okay.
Okay. Everybody's good with that?
And then we should probably come up with a time we should return and tell each other what we found, and then go from there.
Oh god, it's like morning.
I know.
Should we meet here around noon? I don't know. Is it like...
It's like 9 something, right?
It would take till noon just to get there and back. God forbid you had to do anything there.
Okay, so like...
You have a vague sense of the scope of the city. You should probably just plan on meeting back up in the evening because...
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll meet back here in the evening then. I'll let the, God, I don't know, guy, whatever he's called. I'll let the man at the desk know that we'll be, or I guess we already have the room for the night, or was it just the day? It was the night.
Yeah, we got
the
that.
Yeah,
night.
for the night.
Okay, so yeah. And he's like, well then, yeah, so let's just meet here at night, and we'll go from there.
Did he give us an extra key?
And Tessian's like, he did not. I guess Lena and I will try to be a bit more expedient in our return.
Sounds good.
Your journey
Tessian's-
will be a little bit closer. You're not going to the extremity. They're going all the way to the south to get to the docks.
Yeah.
So you probably will be back before them if all things are equal.
Tessian's like, well, I guess I should ask, since I did allow Isaac to ask, does anyone else have any questions for me? Any other strange questions about things that I don't know of? No? Okay, then.
I mean, I have all kinds of questions for you, Tessian, but I don't know if they actually pertain to the task at hand, and I think time is running short, so...
That's fair enough. Well, maybe tonight, then.
All right.
Okay, everybody heading out? Nothing else to do? Okay, what group is chomping at the bit to go first?
I think we know.
Not necessarily. I'm curious on the whole guild thing. I guess what we can do, our trip is going to take longer anyway, so we can go down. Is there like a ye old taxi service that they have going on in the city for transportation?
Right, thine Uber.
Yeah, it's a guy. His name is Uber. He's like,
Yeah,
oh,
you just-
Uber. Hello, Uber.
Strapping fellow, you just jump on his shoulders and he carries you on his back. And
I prefer his Kevin Life.
I help us around the city.
to that end, there are actually motorized vehicles on the streets. The major 4 streets in each of the cardinal direction that you guys would have at least seen. They don't really go around the center ring because that's dangerous with all the foot traffic, but there are some that go to and from the center of the city that could be used for transportation, yes.
So what about like a light rail? Or is that really like how people get around, is these motorized vehicles? And light rail, I said. Probably train is more accurate.
There
That's
is a
fine.
train that comes into the city. It's only on the north side.
Okay. So we can try to like hail down I've been here before. Are there vehicles that are made for like pedestrians to get in and be transported?
Essentially, yeah. Consider them like trolleys.
Okay. So I guess we just go to a trolley, we can get on it and start heading down, and then in the transportation time, we can follow Lena and Tessian. Pull it parallel. It's like 24. We have the 2 separate clocks going. the windows and the clock in the middle. Shows up every once in a while.
Is that the beep, boop?
That's only at the commercials.
Oh, okay.
Every once in a while, like a quiet clock will come up and you'll see it.
Right.
24.
So Tessie and Lena going first then.
I guess that's what's been decided for us. Yeah.
So
Does not want to go for. I'm happy to go.
I can't wait for you
guys.
guys to not find anything, and it's like 2 minutes worth of stuff, and
Yeah.
we're having like a 30-minute discussion with some guy.
dramatic tension, undercut. All right, so Tessie and Lena, as you guys step outside, Tessie, you have at least that baseline knowledge. The problem is you may have to ask around a bit because the guilds are actually in quite a few different directions here. Most of them are to the east, but not all of them. And even you have this inkling that if you're looking for what you're looking for, it may not be with the rest of them.
Well, Thea had always said that if you wanted to learn stuff, you went north, right? That's what she said?
No, if you wanted to live
no.
there, you go north.
Oh, live north. Okay, sorry. I was writing it down really fast, and I failed. What
Learn
was
stuff
learn?
is go west.
Okay, well then that's probably where he would think a guild that he's looking for might be.
Okay.
Although he would ask, I guess. I don't know, is there a mall directory over here? You are here in the city?
Yeah, the Archaeology Guild is right next to the Sabaros.
Okay, sweet. Maybe there's a subway along the way.
Right. You'll be hungry. So what the hell replaced Dungeoneering in this game? It's been a while now. I'm rusty on skill.
Survival?
Well, I kind of, or investigation, depending on what you were doing.
Investigation will work. You two make an investigation check.
5.
And I critically failed for a 3.
Oh my god.
The two of you start trying to ask around in the area, and by and large, for the most part, it's not that people don't seem to want to spend the time of day with you. It's more that they don't consider themselves tour guides, and they have things and places to do, places to be. So it takes a little while, but after maybe 20-25 minutes of canvassing people across the town, you're finally able to get your eyes with somebody who can then tell you that, indeed, although the majority of the guilds are to the west, there are a handful to the east. There are a handful in the west, including the Wizards Guild, the Scholars Guild, the Archaeology Guild, things that may be of use for what you're looking for.
Then, with that confirmation, we will take a trolley west, I guess, towards wherever this Archaeology Guild might be. Keep an eye out for it. Look for signs. Get off the right on ramp, that kind of thing.
Okay. Takes you guys. Uh-oh.
Oh!
Crash!
No!
Oh, there he is. He's fine. Okay.
Oh.
We're on our own.
Not quite yet fine.
Even not on foot, it takes you guys the better part of to get to the trolleys and then to ride them, probably almost half an hour, just to get out to the western side of town. Alongside there are a handful of buildings you recognize, Tessian. There are a lot of schools in this area, some big, some small, and a couple of them you're familiar with from Thea. There's also a lot of places you don't recognize because they were either not of interest to her or to you or either, or just because there's so much in the city that you've never had a chance to canvass at all. You do eventually come across a decent-sized building, nowhere near the size of Publica, but still. On the outside is a sign with a shovel on it, and it says Stratum across the top, and underneath the Archaeology Guild. And so when the trolley comes up to a stop, you guys are welcome to hop off if you'd like, or stay on it. I'm not going to force you off the trolley. Trolleys are nice.
Just have a nice little day out on the city.
What'd you
I am
find?
very
we
much
didn't
enjoying
find
this.
out anything.
I know.
Isaac is
We asked a lot of people. And
guilds are full up.
We've
I
got
imagine
like
us coming back with exactly, ice creams and like bags from like the farmer's market or something like that.
oversized sunglasses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You guys
get
like-
off.
Yeah. Would you guys like to head inside?
we get off and head in.
So the difference between this and a lot of the other buildings in the area, most of these are constructed with wood and stout wood. The majority of buildings in the area are made with that. This is all stone. And as you come inside, it is a hearty interior, which is to say there is a big fireplace that is currently lit, even though it's really not that bad outside. In fact, it's a pretty temperate day overall as we get close to summer in Aramea, and you're in this beach town where you have, this waterfront town where there's plenty of sea air coming in. They still have the fireplace lit, and there's a couple people sitting around by there. There is what appears to be just a front desk with... It's bizarre because you wouldn't be expecting this necessarily, but there is a half-elf in what appears to be knight regalia standing at the desk. He's got like full-on armor, and you have not been to this place before, but it still kind of doesn't jive with your understanding of it because, at least from what little you've heard, the Archaeology Guild is primarily concerned with finding places and finding relics and the like.
Tessian kind of gives Lena an inquisitive eyebrow, like, "Oh, this is interesting," and then walks up to the person in the armor, whoever they are.
Okay. As you guys get closer, you can see completely shaved head, really piercing green eyes. He's tall, but sturdily built, certainly enough that it doesn't look like the armor's draped off of him. Like, he's got the musculature to prop up this heavy armor. And he says, "Hoy there! What brings you to the Archaeology Guild today?"
Tessian's like, well, we were interested in perhaps looking for, well, we're going to go on a bit of a venture of sorts, a bit of a, well, it may be very important to you and what you represent here. And we're looking maybe to find funding or some sort of partnership for it. I'm not sure who we should talk to about that. I'll admit I'm a little new to the inner workings of the guilds myself.
He says, "Well, that's understandable. All sorts of folk come through this city from time to time, and some of them are familiar with our dealings, and some of them aren't." He extends his hand. He says, "My name is Rolf Woodleaf." Rolf.
Isn't that the one Muppet that plays the piano?
No, that's Rolf.
Rolf, okay.
This is Rolf. Get it straight.
Rolf.
Okay.
Rolf Woodleaf.
Woodleaf.
Oh, Rolf, it's a pleasure. I am Tessian, and this is, just lets Lena introduce herself.
And I say, I'm Lena. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Shakes your hand as well. So we do have some sort of a sub-guild set up where certain groups underneath our purview can go out to various dig sites, or maybe they're adventurers and they come across certain finds and they can share them with us, or occasionally we even just have people who document hard-to-reach areas. They go and they travel to places that others might not normally and come back with tales, and there is some coin in it, especially for people who've established a good relationship. So that said, I would at least like to know more about you. What type of work would you be doing? Where would you be headed? You have to understand that there is certainly a level of trust that we have to establish before we can just start making payments, but on the surface, there's definitely a possibility we could be working with you, yes.
And Tessian's like, well, we're, and he actually sort of tries to pass the conversation to Lena, since this is technically her thing.
Yes, and I fully notice, and then I take over, and I say, well, I'm actually from the Sowenwood, and I am going to begin my conatus very soon. It's something I was chosen for? It's not really the word, but whatever. Yes, it's a journey that is very important to my family, and we were hoping to possibly travel to some obscure locations, and perhaps we can even document some of these places for you. The first location is the Shrine of Zenithra. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that name, but...
And you've kind of noticed as you're talking to him that his eyes have lit up at the mention of this.
Okay, good.
He says, "You're from the Sowenwood?"
Yes.
That's a rare find indeed. The conatus, I have heard of it. Yes, it's not necessarily directly related to archaeology, but there are certainly some locations along the path, if we've heard about them correctly, that we would love to get our hands on. I understand it's a sacred location. We're not just looking to just spill in with shovels and start digging it all up. But boy, to see some of the places and how it's been preserved over time would be fascinating. And he kind of has looked you over at this point. Like, he acknowledged you when you came in, but now he's kind of looking at your attire, and a lot of the things are starting to click as far as, you are indeed of at least somewhat elvish descent. He can't tell exactly, but, the story's checking out from as he's looking you over.
Yeah, good.
He says, well, I suppose the question is, what is it that you're proposing? Sometimes we have people from our guild accompany groups that go out, and they become the people who document the experience. Obviously, it takes a hardier sort to do that than just some bookworm, but we do have a few people who are experienced with that. Sometimes we just have groups go out on their own. They document things and present them back to us, and then based on how much detail they can provide, we can provide extra compensation. What type of arrangement are you thinking here?
Tessian's actually just going to kind of let Lena handle this one.
Okay, so I'm going to say probably the second option. Since we will be going to all these locations, it'd probably be easiest just for us to document it ourselves. Then there's no risk of any danger. It's a very dangerous journey, as you might be aware, and I'd rather not risk any archaeologists' lives in the process. So perhaps we can document our journey and all the places we see, and then bring the information back to you.
Seems reasonable, yes. It's normally not a decision we would make so quickly, but when an opportunity like this presents itself, I think it would be foolish to turn it down. How say you this, then? One of the devices that we use for groups of this nature is a magic scroll of sorts. It allows you to write or draw on it, and then we can see that same conveyance on our side. So it's essentially like being able to send a message, but it allows it to come on our own internal paperwork, and then we have record of it as well, so we can put it into our libraries and all the things that we've amassed over time. I would grant you the use of this scroll, even though it is somewhat expensive, as sort of a down payment of sorts, and then once we start to receive information, we could then arrange payments upon future visits, if that makes sense.
I think it sounds good. I'm not really super, financially savvy as a person from the Stonewood, so I'm also going to be nodding furiously, but also looking at Tessian.
And Tessian is like, that sounds amiable. It sounds like something we could do. I myself am something of an artist at the very least. I should be able to provide rather detailed depictions of the things that we find.
That would be even more good. I mean, words are really the primary thing that we go through in this place, but if we have someone who's actually able to take down sketches of certain ruins or the topography of areas that we have not been to, that would be all the better. Let's put it this way, if you can provide what you've said, then there may be some somewhat lucrative paydays in your future.
Tessian nods. He's like, well, I think that would be something that we can do for you, and that you can do for us. It sounds like a deal. I'm not sure how we settle this. He's like looking around for paperwork or something, but...
Well, I'll have to write up the paperwork, double check it with the higher-ups. I am decently positioned here, but it's not really my final say. But if you could swing by perhaps in the morning, we could have things prepared. You could look it over, make sure the terms are to your liking. Up front, there won't be anything on it about a rate as of yet. Again, that will depend on what you're able to provide. And there are actually further opportunities within Stratum if we find this to be a lucrative relationship both ways, but we'll approach that down the road once this has been, established for a while.
Tessian nods and he's like, that sounds like something we can do tomorrow morning then.
Very well. If you can return then, I should have the paperwork in order. If we find everything to be agreeable, I will get you that scroll. And you can see him look almost wistful. He's like, I hope I'm not being too trusting, because this is a rare opportunity. I have to be upfront with you. It's not something we've had access to in the past. So let's just say I hope you're not pulling one over me.
Definitely not. I can assure you of that.
Very well, then. I hope to see you in the morning and wish you luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Tessian thanks him, and I guess we part ways.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to do while you're out in this way?
Gosh, we're in the whole Center for Learning, I guess. Tessian's like, well, if we're in this part of the city, Lena, should we look for other things? Should we try to catch up with the others? If we were going to look for information on the Conatus, this would be the place to do it.
I actually would like to do that. I mean, we do have all day, I suppose. Might as well make use of it.
Okay. If you ask Rolf about it, just to save some time, he would be able to tell you that there is a massive library in this district as well. That could be a starting point. Although he does caution you that because they're the primary seekers of such information, there will probably be some information in this library about the Conatus, but how much of it is myth and how much of it is truth will be up to you guys to discern.
That's
Good
fair.
to know. Thank you.
That's fair.
So if you guys head off to the library, we'll switch back to Group B.